Hello, and welcome to Breast Cancer Conversations, a podcast brought to you by survivingbreastcancer.org. I am Laura Carfing, breast cancer survivor and founder of survivingbreastcancer.org, a nonprofit organization providing community, education, and resources to empower those diagnosed with breast cancer and their caregivers from day one and beyond. Hello, my friends. I hope everyone is doing great today. I am joined in this episode with Abigail Johnston, one of our board directors and chair of our MBC programming and leadership team, as well as Michelle Stravitz, who is the co-founder of Two Unstoppable. Two Unstoppable is an amazing nonprofit organization. They provide peer-to-peer support and programming with regards to exercise for all cancers, not just breast cancer. But today we specifically dive into the benefits of the Two Unstoppable program and their specific program with exercise for those living with metastatic disease. Even if you're not living with metastatic disease, Michelle gives us amazing tips to help us get motivated and really understand the science behind exercise and the benefits it has for any of us diagnosed with a breast cancer diagnosis. So I really hope you enjoy all of the learnings from today's episode. If you're new to Breast Cancer Conversations, please know that we are brought to you by the organization survivingbreastcancer.org. Hop on over to survivingbreastcancer.org/events to see all of our upcoming programs, free workshops, free webinars, all of the things that you can do to get involved and get resources at your fingertips. We also have an app that you can download from the App Store. Just go to the App Store and search for survivingbreastcancer.org. And that is a great way for you to stay connected with our community, join private groups, and connect with others who are going through a similar diagnosis like you. Finally, I want to let you know, our listeners, about an upcoming fundraiser that we have taking place in September of 2023. I am so excited because over the last 5 to 6 years that we have been running survivingbreastcancer.org and our podcast, we have never actually done a large-scale fundraising event, and this is going to be monumentous. I am just so excited because when we do these fundraising events, knowing that all of the money that we are raising goes back into the organization so we can provide free programs, resources, and services to those living with breast cancer. So I thank you all in advance for supporting our programs and services. You don't have to wait till September to make a donation. You can hop on over to our website, survivingbreastcancer.org/donate, and make a donation there. But we are going to be having a really fun fundraiser coming up, and I am going to be preparing all of the things you need to know, the information, how to register, how to get involved, and all of that will be coming out soon. So I'm really excited for that. And yes, it has to do with exercise, so even better. Nothing like moving your body and raising money for a good cause. Okay, so without further ado, let's dive into today's conversation with Michelle Stravitz and Abigail Johnston. Welcome to the conversation.
So let's just dive in and talk a little bit about exercising after a cancer diagnosis. And as Abigail said earlier, we know that this can be very challenging for many of us for a lot of reasons. So we're going to talk a little bit about the why, and we're going to talk a little bit about the how. Because before I even get into it, I know that the best reason for you to exercise is the reason that's going to get you off the couch. So you need to find your why as you listen to all of this information. And the best type of exercise for you is the one you're going to do. So you need to find your how as we talk all about this. So find your personal why and your personal how, and that's how you might get moving. And we're here to help you. So let's dive in. Let's go to the next slide.
And please feel free as you're watching to drop those things into the comments so that we can hear from individuals who are participating just what is your why and what is your how, because it is, yes, like Michelle said, it's going to be different for everybody.
It is as unique as each of us. Okay, your why should be as unique as you are. So just repeating, who are we? Two Unstoppable is a nonprofit organization. We founded it about 5 years ago. It founded by two women who had a personal history of breast cancer. And we each realize the benefits of exercise on our own journeys. And I will tell you that the two of us have very different relationships with exercise. We each have our individual whys and our individual hows. We have very different types of exercise, the way we do it and the reasons we do it. But we both realized how important it was in our own journeys. And we now want to help other women on the cancer journey experience the benefits of physical activity. And we come from a place where we get it. because our own cancer journeys inform our work. Let's go to the next slide.
It's so amazing to me with all the different people we've had on this webinar series that people who have been through a cancer diagnosis are often filling in those gaps in medical care or in, however you want to look at it from the larger organizations. But it's those organizations that are started by somebody who really gets it. They're able to design the programs, I think, for specifically for people in mind that are dealing with it individually. So
exactly. We try to really think about all of the elements, and we know that each of us is different. So I already introduced myself. Let's go to the next slide. All right. So here's where we want to hone in on what we're going to talk about tonight. And before I do that, I want to step back and say that we know that after being diagnosed with cancer, wherever you are, whatever the specific diagnosis is, it feels very out of control. Things feel very out of control when you get this diagnosis. And so we want to look at this trifecta and understand where we can take some control and where we can impact it. So when we look at what impacts our outcomes, we know that each of us has our own individual biology, and that's kind of what we're born with, our DNA, our shape, our metabolism, the way our hormones work. It's different for each of us. And so we all are kind of born, and then we grow with our individual biology. We don't have a whole lot of things we can do about that. We also have our medical treatment, which affects our outcome. And we do have some control over that. We can choose between this treatment or that treatment. We can choose our providers, and we do make those very heavy decisions. But overall, we're kind of following a medical regimen. It's the area of patient lifestyle that we can make a lot of difference ourselves, and we can take control no matter where we are in our treatment regimen, no matter where we are in our journey. Those elements include our nutrition, exercise, and our emotional well-being and what we do to help that. And tonight, we're really going to focus on exercise. That is our lane for Two Unstoppable. That is our niche. But we believe that the other two are very, very important, and each of us makes choices in those areas also. But tonight, we're going to focus on movement, exercise, physical activity, whatever word you want to use. So let's go to the next slide. All right. You also said earlier, Abigail, that you talked about our own sort of medical approach, and we actually feel like exercise is medicine. Exercise, in my book, is a complementary treatment to the other kinds of treatments that we're taking or undergoing. And one of my favorite quotes is from a researcher in Australia, and she says that if the benefits of exercise could be encapsulated in a pill, it would be prescribed to every cancer patient worldwide. So if it were in a pill, but it's not. So we're going to find other fun ways to incorporate it into our lives. Let's go to the next slide. So a little bit of the research and the evidence. And again, all you need to find is one of these that becomes your why. So researchers are realizing that exercise not only improves our overall quality of life, our well-being during treatment, but it actually may help to fight the cancer itself. Exercise changes our body's chemistry and makes it less welcoming or hospitable for cancer to grow. There are all sorts of studies that show that regular exercise can repress tumor growth. And some recent studies have shown that it improves the vascular function, thereby bringing the chemotherapy and making it more effective. So there are some early studies that show that. In fact, the last quote was out of Australia. In Australia, there have even been studies where people go right from an infusion center right into an exercise lab, and they're exercising immediately right after their treatment. And they're finding early innings here, they're finding that the treatments are more effective. Moreover, there are many ways, which we'll talk about in a minute, where exercise helps to combat side effects. And if it can combat some of your side effects, it will allow you to tolerate the treatment that you need a little better and be able to complete a treatment regimen or to continue with the treatment regimen. If you can lower the side effects, it makes it more tolerable. So that also allows us to receive the treatments that are being prescribed for us. So there's a lot of ways that exercise helps in making the treatment more effective.
I just want to say here, we at survivingbreastcancer.org, and generally from a personal perspective, we never want anybody to feel shame over not doing something, right? So exercise is there as a potentially a benefit, potentially something that can help improve overall quality of life, as well as give some physical benefits and maybe help with treatments and all of those things. But it doesn't mean that if you don't do it, then the cancer is going to grow, or that you didn't do something that you should have done or anything like that. So there's no element of anybody feeling bad. It's more of the, hey, here are some reasons why this could be really key and could help. And going back to what you said, Michelle, about here's something we can control in a situation where everything seems out of control. You can control how much you move. You can control.
Absolutely. And it may be that it just simply makes you feel a little better, or makes you feel a little more confident, or makes you feel a little bit more energetic. And that's also an important element of your outcome. It's our quality of life. So there's lots of things. This is a no guilt environment here. So regular exercise also helps to do all sorts of biological things like regulating hormones and reducing inflammation. Many of us may have heard about eating, anti-inflammatory foods or things like that. Exercise can help with that as well. And it helps to increase the circulation of our natural killer cells. So it does a lot of things in our body that helps us to fight the cancer. Let's just go to the next slide.
Yeah, those natural killer cells, that's your immune system, right? And anything we can do to boost our body's ability to address what's going on. Yes, those war or fighting metaphors are not something that we typically embrace in the MBC community generally, but there are cells that are legitimately going out to kill other cells. Like that is legitimately their function.
That is the terminology that's used. That's right.
Exactly.
Yeah. So there's a bunch of different facts or studies that have been done to demonstrate the benefits of exercise. And as we get into this, I want you to know that we're going to talk a little bit about what is exercise. And I don't want you to think it's an all or nothing kind of thing. So we'll get into this a little bit, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the how. So some studies have shown that women with breast cancer who got 150 minutes of moderate to vigorous exercise each week saw reductions in risk of death from cancer or death from other causes. And so that's improving people's outcomes. Now, when I heard 150 minutes, when I first heard that, I thought, oh my, you must be kidding. I was completely overwhelmed by that number. But I promise you, we're going to break this down. And I'm also going to tell you that 2 minutes is better than 0, and 10 minutes is also okay. So it doesn't have to be 150 minutes. The reason they use that number is because that is the recommendation, not only for the cancer population, but for the general population. It's a number that's used. And so it's the number that was used in the studies. And that's why they use that number of 150 minutes. But it's a general number of exercise recommendations for everybody. The National Cancer Institute has shown that physical activity has beneficial effects, like things like combating weight gain, just general quality of life, literally just feeling better about ourselves. It does reduce cancer progression and improve prognosis. It can also minimize, as I said, combat and sometimes reverse some of the side effects of cancer treatment. And let's just look at one of the most common side effects of cancer and cancer treatment, cancer-related fatigue. Now, we define cancer-related fatigue. It's not just the fatigue we get from the treatments, the fatigue we get from staying up at night, either because we're on steroids or because we're worried, right? The fatigue, the emotional fatigue of just worrying about our future. Those are all cancer-related fatigue. And exercise is actually considered the number one treatment for cancer-related fatigue. It's the gold standard treatment. Exercise has also been shown to elevate mood, as Abigail said, boost the immune system and help improve outcomes in general. Now, we know that anxiety and depression are very common side effects of cancer as well, cancer and cancer treatment. And exercise helps to combat anxiety and depression in everyone. Really, it can help with anyone. And it has also been studied that the single most important factor for keeping up with fitness success is having a support system. And that's where we go back to coupling that social support with the exercise. So we're here providing a community of women that are trying to stay active after a cancer diagnosis. We have groups and classes, and we also have fitness buddies, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. Let's go to the next slide.
It's so important, though, from a mental health perspective, right? Because we talk about mental health, we talk about, psychosocial issues and things. And, if you're feeling depressed or you're feeling anxious, that can undermine doing anything, right? And for people who haven't experienced depression prior to a cancer diagnosis, haven't experienced a lot of anxiety prior to a diagnosis, I know just for myself, my coping mechanisms that I had developed in the whole 38 years that I had been alive just weren't up to the task of dealing with a terminal diagnosis. So amazingly, it's something so simple. It's not medication. It's not therapy. It's not something that you're having to spend a lot of money on, but that exercise can be so significant. And thank you for the people who are including kind of what they're doing for exercise and how much they're able to do. It's always good to see that you're in the same boat as other people.
And that's exactly part of what this whole social support piece is connecting with other women who are in the same boat and kind of dealing with a lot of the same things. So this page just has a whole long list of different types of side effects that exercise can combat. And this is where I tell everyone, you only need to find one of these that's important to you. Find your why. Find the why that has motivated you to go on with the treatments. What is it in your life that you want to be able to do? And maybe exercise will help you do that. Do you want to have enough energy to play with your kids? Do you want to be able to have the strength to go to your child's graduation? Do you want to be able to carry the laundry basket? Do you want to have the flexibility to reach up to the top shelf in your kitchen? So, exercise can help with flexibility. Many of us have had treatments that reduce just our mobility, right? And affect our mobility. So each of these side effects, I know I have one that motivated me, that got me off the couch, that made me think about it every single day. Like, oh my gosh, this is what my treatments are doing to me. And maybe I can combat that. So each of us has our own why. And like I said, there's many, many ways that exercise can combat our side effects. So it can help with balance. It can help with your muscles. It can help with to lower the risk of heart disease, improve cardiovascular function, even improve your self-esteem. Many of us, our self-esteem is attacked when we get a cancer diagnosis, right? We feel like, well, what have we done wrong? Our bodies are betraying us. I'm not the same person I was before. Exercise can actually build your confidence and make you feel like you have some control over your body. And all of these are important. So any one of them is enough to motivate you. So, and then of course, as I said earlier, just improving your quality of life, even just for a day or for a few minutes. So I'll let you go to the next slide. So the American Cancer Society does have these recommendations that we take part in physical activity, that we avoid inactivity and try to return to whatever normal daily activities we can, and to exercise, and I put it in parentheses, aim to exercise 150 minutes per week. That's the goal. That's the recommendation. But as we're going to talk about, this is not all or nothing. It's do what you can. And if today you can't even walk to the mailbox, then today you can't walk to the mailbox. One of our most important mantras is be patient with your body. Be patient with your body. We do recommend that if you're going to take part in physical activity, that you try to find a way to incorporate some sort of strength training or resistance training. That is to help your muscles, your body function, and also it can help with your bones, to strengthen your bones. But of course, with all the precautions necessary, and we'll talk about those a little later. The American Society for Clinical Oncology, ASCO, last April, came out with a recommendation encouraging physicians to refer almost all patients to exercise during treatment. So this was a very broad statement. There had been a lot, as Abigail talked about, recommendations for after treatment was over, but this is for during treatment. This is for people that are still getting cancer treatments. And then we want to remember that it's important to do exercise that makes us happy, that feels enjoyable, that develops new skills, that incorporates social interactions, and that helps to stimulate both our minds and our bodies and our spirits. And so we'll talk a little bit later about how certain types of exercise can actually help with our brain health, our cognitive health, our emotional well-being, as well as our bodies. So let's go to the next slide. Now, I've been talking a lot about the benefits of exercise. And so why did we found Two Unstoppable? Because we recognized this huge problem and this huge gap. The fact is that there are many, many benefits of exercise after a cancer diagnosis. And those benefits are relatively indisputable. I mean, they're pretty consistent data. In fact, when we founded Two Unstoppable about 5 years ago, there were just an explosion of research coming out about exercise after cancer. And by the way, breast cancer is the top of the list of the type of cancers that are impacted by exercise and the outcomes. So the reality, though, is that despite all of this information, few women are getting the exercise they need. I recently heard a study that some information that I think 95% of cancer patients experience negative side effects from their treatments, and 5% are referred to exercise programs by their physicians, actually referred to a specific program. We also we know that it's estimated that 70% of cancer survivors, and when they say survivor, they're talking about anyone who's been diagnosed in that case, 70% of cancer survivors are not getting the exercise they need. So we know there's a gap between what we want to see happening and what is really happening. And so Two Unstoppable, we founded to help inspire and encourage and support exercise among women with a cancer diagnosis. So let's go to the next slide.
Well, and I don't know about anybody else who's watching. My doctors said, stay as active as you can, but I have no specific recommendations for you. And, oh, by the way, all the programs we have available are only for people who are not in active treatment. I don't know if other people have had a similar situation, if you actually were, even if that was a discussion. So definitely comment in the chat about that, because, I think a lot of us, our doctors aren't even talking about it because there's so many other things to talk about.
That's exactly right, Abigail. That is a very, very common experience. While most oncologists, surgeons, radiation oncologists will say they know that exercise is beneficial to people with a cancer diagnosis, very few of them have the time or, frankly, the knowledge of what to refer their patients to. And that's why there are professional fitness trainers, there are fitness professionals who are certified to work with cancer patients. And Two Unstoppable works only with cancer exercise specialists or people certified to work with the cancer population. And that's an important thing to look for, because those are fitness professionals who have been trained to work with people who have different types of cancers, understanding both the impact of the cancer on your body and the treatment on your body and what your goals might be based on those. So it's really important to exercise in a safe environment. I'm actually going to stop for a minute. I think this is a good time to introduce one of my colleagues. If we can bring her up, that would be amazing. The fitness director from Two Unstoppable is also with us tonight, and I'd like to welcome her and introduce her briefly. And then a little bit later, as we get more into the details of what we deliver, she may be able to answer questions or enhance the conversation. So I'm introducing Stacey Mann, Two Unstoppable's amazing fitness director. Stacey is an experienced personal trainer. She has an advanced qualified cancer exercise specialist certification, and she's also a certified health coach. Stacey actually has a long list of certifications because she just loves to keep learning and growing. And we are so privileged and thrilled to have her leading our fitness team at Two Unstoppable. She has designed many of Two Unstoppable's most important fitness offerings, and we will introduce some of those a bit later. And she's here to share with you her expertise and knowledge of working with the metastatic cancer community. Stacey's special touch, her desire to help each woman individually meet and exceed her personal fitness goals while benefiting from the greater Two Unstoppable community, and her emphasis on helping us all find what we can do rather than focusing on what we can't do has been a major ingredient in the success of Two Unstoppable's programs. And I am delighted to have her joining us tonight.
Welcome, Stacey.
Thank you. Hi, Abigail. Hi, Michelle. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me. Thank you for welcoming me on.
So Abigail, if we can put back the slides, I want to continue our conversation, and Stacey will jump in when appropriate. I welcome her to jump in and help guide the conversation. But what we were about to talk about was actually something that we all need to face and understand, aside from the funny, picture up here. We all have to recognize that while we talked a lot about the benefits of exercise, we have to acknowledge that there are many, many challenges and barriers to exercise. That's true of the general population. That's true of the entire cancer population. And I think it's even more challenging for the metastatic community. We recognize that there are psychological barriers. It might be hard to get motivated. We might be afraid. We might not think of ourselves as the gym or sporty type, right? Like I wasn't that person. I used to roll my eyes when I heard about the recommendations for exercise. There's also physical barriers. We all have comorbidities, the impact of our cancer treatment, the general aging process, which seems to happen a lot faster when we go through treatment. We have fatigue and the illustrious weight gain, just to add insult to injury. One study showed that patients with metastatic breast cancer experience a broad range of health problems that impact their ability to be physically active. So we recognize that there are real challenges and real barriers. And then there's environmental barriers, right? My job takes up a lot of time. I have lots of people in my life I have to take care of. I don't have access to a gym. The weather's really bad. I can't get out and walk, whatever. So there's real barriers. And in order to embrace the idea of exercising, we also have to recognize the barriers and figure out how, if we can get those benefits to outweigh the barriers sufficiently to motivate ourselves to stay active. So I talk about these because I want to acknowledge them and recognize them.
Well, and one thing you talked about having a cancer exercise specialist, and Stacey posted in our private chat about how there's 16,000 spread out over 50 countries. When I've attempted to go to, yoga classes, and I explained to the instructor my limitations, I literally went to one last week, and she was just like, I don't feel comfortable. And so I think if somebody, and I know my limitations, but if you go to a class or you go to a place where you might normally exercise like a gym, and then you start explaining your medical history or, a small snapshot of your medical history, because they always ask, right? From a liability perspective, they have to ask. If somebody isn't trained in dealing with people who have cancer or have had cancer, that can be very daunting and very overwhelming for instructors. So yes. I think going somewhere where there's somebody who knows where you're coming from and has a comfort level with adjusting or designing a program with your limitations in mind, that to me is really key. Going back to those barriers, even if you're motivated and you want to go somewhere, that can often be something, you freak everybody out. And then you're like, oh, I'm the elephant in the room again, and see you later.
Abigail, we hear that all the time. That's exactly right. We hear that all the time, that you go and you talk to the fitness instructor. They don't understand what you're talking about with your side effects or your risks or your concerns. And then, women never go back again because you're afraid. It makes sense. I'll also acknowledge that even within the cancer community, the cancer exercise community, there are far too few, really very few programs for the metastatic community because of those concerns and risks. And so it is one of the reasons why our program that we offer specifically for the women living with metastatic cancer, that it's so unique. Stacey, do you want to address any of that?
Yeah. So just to tag on to what Michelle just said, To Unstoppable offering a class for women living with metastatic cancer has really opened a huge door, even for me as a cancer exercise specialist, because there haven't been studies done. There is not the research available to find out how exercise really, truly affects a woman with metastatic cancer, and for what does it change in their bodies, and what does it do other than enhancing quality of life, making the fatigue, some of the fatigue go away that Michelle talked about, that mental and physical fatigue, being able to just do daily functions better, gain some muscle strength back, maybe lose a little bit of the weight. That's always a goal that everyone always has, but gaining that tone back. But it's been more an anecdotal learning for me to be able to meet with women individually and learn from them. They know their bodies best. You know your body best. And when you come to me, I am not going to put my ideas on you. I want you to put your ideas on me, and then we're going to work together, given my knowledge of maybe surgeries that you've had or treatments that you've had, and then what you're telling me. And that's super important. And it's not something you're necessarily going to find in a big box gym or in a rec center or somewhere where they're offering cancer programs, but they're not taught by cancer exercise specialists. They're not taught by someone who has an understanding of, 40 different types of cancer, their surgeries, their treatments, the way they affect the body. And then someone who has had the opportunity to work with, well over several hundred people coming in the door, and you're talking to them and learning from them. And also way back in the conversation, harking back to, it's individual. Everything is individual, and you can't design a cookie cutter plan or say, oh, well, yeah, I know you can do this. Instead, no, let's work it all together and make you feel better as you're exercising. Because as Michelle said also earlier, you need to want to do it. And so if you know that you have a plan in place, that is something you're going to want to do because it works for your body and you feel good when you do it, that's the most important part of exercise and the most important part of what I do.
Yeah. I did just want to mention the YMCA does have a program called Live Strong that is designed for cancer survivors, I think, specifically. Mm-hmm. And some locations do include metastatic patients, not all of them. Those particular programs are typically taught by somebody with the extra cancer training. And certainly if anybody else has any other organizations that you know of, drop those in the chat. Livestrong, other than To Unstoppable, is the only one that I've heard of that is specific to this population. But then Livestrong also sometimes whatever their programming is in an individual location sometimes doesn't include metastatic patients. So just wanted to throw that out there. Everybody needs to be able to get to the point of being in a place where you feel comfortable, right? And if going to a specific place versus doing something in your home makes more sense to you, then Live Strong is another option. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Thank you for sharing that, Abigail.
Absolutely. Yeah. And
So let's jump in for a second. And just as we keep using this word, exercise, 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 and think about in your head, when we say that, what does that mean to you? You know, what's your definition of exercise? And you're welcome to put it in the chat, in the comments. But just think about what that means to you. And then I want to go to the next slide and hopefully break a few myths that some people believe about exercise when I talk about it, because I want to make sure that everyone feels that it is something that is feasible, that it is achievable, that it is reachable and accessible. And that is why, another reason why Too Unstoppable provides our programs. Our programs are almost all virtual, so they're accessible to anyone, anywhere. Many of our programs are free of charge, and we want to make them available and accessible to everyone. So a few myths that some people believe is, I can't exercise during treatment. That's not true for most patients.
Yeah, I was going to say, unless your doctor tells you not to.
Unless your doctor tells you not to. And even with that, you might be able to do certain types of things and not others during treatment. But it doesn't mean you just flat out can't do it. Some people think I have to work out in a gym for it to count. If I can't do 150 minutes, I might as well not do anything. Nope. Every 2 minutes counts. Every 2 minutes is beneficial. And you don't even have to sweat for it to count. Walking is a great way to start. So some facts: exercise can be safe and feasible for most patients. Exercise is, as Stacy said, it is not one size fits all. We have to tailor the program. We have to learn how to make modifications to meet our own personal challenges and our own personal bodies. And we also have to find exercise that makes us joyful, that makes us comfortable, that makes us feel good. It's not, and that's not the same for everyone. Exercise can be any movement that works for you. There's lots of ways to move safely and effectively. And sometimes it only takes moderate exercise to see benefits. When I say moderate exercise, or that term earlier, moderate to vigorous, that means that maybe as you're moving, you can still talk, but maybe you can't sing the national anthem while you're moving, but you can still talk, right? You don't have to be huffing and puffing for it to count. Right? So it can be moderate exercise and still be beneficial. Now, another thing is, as Abigail talked about earlier, this is not about guilt. This is not about what I didn't do. It is never, 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 never too late to start. You can start at any age, at any stage, at any point. And incidental exercise counts. So focus on moving in any way you can. I think it's on the next slide that I might have some examples of incidental exercise. These are things like, when you go to the store, park a little further away if you feel like you have the energy. Get a few extra steps in. When you're on the phone, walk around the house, walk around your backyard, rake leaves or work in the garden. If you're at work, don't text your colleagues, walk down the hall and poke your head in. Take the stairs on the way to the doctor's office instead of the elevator. Maybe even vacuuming your home. These all count. These are what we call incidental activity, and it all adds up. So any way that you can try to make your think about moving, think about every day, every hour, have I moved in the past hour? What am I going to do to move my body today? Let's go to the next slide, because I want to focus on some structured things that we offer. So
walking the dog is something that people have dogs, right? You have to walk your dog.
My dog was an incredible fitness buddy when I was going through my active treatment, because the dog had to get walked. Now, there were times I felt not comfortable walking the dog by myself, and then I would find someone to walk with me. But knowing the dog had to be walked was a great motivator. So how can Too Unstoppable help? We have a whole host of offerings because it's not one size fits all. And so we have a whole bunch of ways to help you get moving. We offer oncology fitness classes. So again, specific fitness classes designed for the cancer community. We offer educational programs like webinars. We offer resources, videos online, and so on. Now that's reinforced by the total community of women trying to stay active. These are all women who have had a cancer diagnosis. And then we also have an opportunity to be assigned a fitness buddy, which might be just one or two other women who are your real mentors or fitness buddies. And it's peer-to-peer. It's another woman with a cancer diagnosis who might have similar goals, similar diagnosis, similar treatment phase, similar age, similar life phase. And you can find a buddy to work out with or simply to help motivate you and keep you accountable. Let's go to the next slide for some of the specifics. So some of our more general programs that we have, and these are for the entire cancer community, any woman with a cancer diagnosis, not only the metastatic community, but any woman with a cancer diagnosis. We have monthly meetups once a month. We meet on Zoom and we talk about different themes with exercise. We always stick to our niche of exercise. Sometimes we have guest speakers. Sometimes we talk about books about exercise for cancer. We also offer a whole host of virtual fitness classes. Every month we have a 21-day challenge, which is curated by the wonderful Coach Stacy. They all have different themes. And they can be very effective. This month, we're working on our lower bodies and we're doing some walking and other lower body exercises. And then we also have a monthly newsletter that gives you updates on the latest research and all of the activities going on at 2 Unstoppable. All of these always combine oncology exercise with social support on the virtual platform because we want to be a provider of oncology exercise programs for women so that every woman with a cancer diagnosis can access the tools and support she needs to get moving and improve her own outcome. So because it's on the virtual platform, you can access us no matter where you are. Let's go to the next slide.
Well, I don't want anybody to miss Instagram. Stacy does these videos. Was it 2-Minute Tuesdays?
Yes, 2-Minute Tuesdays at 2:00 every Tuesday. This Tuesday I was at 2:01, I think, but every Tuesday at 2:00 for 2 minutes, and we go through a variety of things. So yeah, definitely join us at 2 Unstoppable to you.
And those 2 minutes count.
Absolutely.
Every 2 minutes counts.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't have to be live.
One thing I wanted to mention is that slide about the incidental exercise. And then as it relates to our 21-day challenge, that's one of our most popular 21-day challenges is the NEAT challenge, the non-exercise activity challenge. And you can do a lot of movement even from a chair. Let's say if you're not able to do any of those lower body things, there's a lot of movement, incidental movement that you can do seated as well. That's really helpful, but that is one of our most popular 21-day challenges. So come find the fun.
Yes. And anyone can join those anytime. They're all on our website at www.2unstoppable. That's the number 2unstoppable.org. And I think it's going across the bottom of your screen. As I mentioned, we have this online fitness buddy matching program. So that's also a free program. You can go online. It works a little like a dating service. You set up a little profile, you you talk a little bit about yourself, what your goals are. And then once you've been approved and moderated, you can go in and look at the profiles. We have over 600 or 700 women signed up to find a buddy, and you can go through the profiles and search based on criteria that are important for you. For example, you might want to find someone else who's been diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer. You might want to find someone who's at the same stage of life as you are. You might want to find someone who likes the same type of exercise as you. Like if you like to do yoga, you might want to find someone else who likes to do yoga, and you can share stories. So you can find a buddy who's looking for similar things as you. Again, oncology exercise with that social support. Let's go to the next slide, because this is the most important thing we want to tell you about. Abigail was talking earlier about this particular program. So 2 Unstoppable Strong is a small group progressive exercise program that we launched in the fall of 2020. It is offered on the virtual platform, so it can be accessed by anyone from anywhere. It is taught by a certified cancer exercise specialist. The program was designed by Stacy, and she has trained other fitness professionals to teach some of the other sections. For the metastatic community, we launched in June of 2021, we launched a special sessions just for the metastatic community. So we now offer 2 Unstoppable Strong for women living with metastatic cancer. The groups are very small. We keep them to 4 to 6 women. Each session is 6 weeks long. You do 1 live Zoom class per week, and often a complimentary walking regimen is encouraged. Each member is assigned a fitness buddy. And then, this is the best part, the whole program is personalized and modified within the group setting. Each participant meets with Stacy individually before the program starts so that she can learn your health history, your fitness goals, some of the modifications or barriers or concerns that you have. And then she can design the program not only to have modifications that are specific to you, but as a group, the program is customized to the particular group of women who are participating then. Let's go back to that slide. I want Stacy to talk a little bit about the types of goals that typically women have when, we can just open it up, when they come to 2 Unstoppable Strong for the metastatic community, and the types of benefits that people have been reporting.
So mostly what I hear is that women would like to combat some of the side effects that they're having during treatment, that they'd like to regain muscle strength and tone, that they would enjoy doing their everyday activities a little bit better. Maybe they're having trouble reaching up high because they're having some frozen shoulder issues or some joint issues. Maybe they have trouble walking up and down the stairs and they're looking for strength back in the glutes and the quads and in other areas. They also would like to improve flexibility, endurance, and then just generally feel better. The comments I've heard are feel a little more normal, feel a little more themselves. And these are coming from the women that are coming to me. And so we work together to try to find the options that are going to work for them to help them meet their goals within that group setting. So for the metastatic group, I am the one that's teaching that group. I am very protective of this group because I love all of you, and you are I have so much fun. And we get together and we work together, and I get to know you, and I get to know you very well through a very short 30-minute conversation. I understand how you move. I get to understand your goals. And then throughout the 6-week program, I get to know you a little bit more, and we get to work together. And no matter what happens along the road there, along that journey, we kind of try to work to overcome it all together and to keep you moving in a way that is safe for you. It's definitely a program that I would recommend to anyone. One of the great things about it is that sometimes the entire group becomes a support system. You don't just get a buddy within that group, you get the entire group coming together and working out together. We record the live classes and only the instructors in that class. And then you have the opportunity to do that recording with your group later on. So you can log on and get together and do your homework together and keep that accountability piece moving. A lot of our groups have set up chat programs and emails where they're counting steps together, or they're just reaching out and talking about their lives together. And it's so great because now you have a whole new group of friends that all want to move in some way together and support each other in that movement. And I think that that's been a really important piece of this. And of course, we wouldn't be too unstoppable without that piece, because we're bringing everyone together in that exercise mode and movement mode.
A lot of
don't forget the names. Each class gets a specific name.
And each class gets a specific name. Yes, I have a lot of fun coming up with different adjectives to describe each class and to move through those classes. And it definitely, I think, becomes a little motivating because you are a group and you now have a name. You're not just under the 2U Strong class. You are the Fearless 5 or the Fiery 5, I believe you were, Abigail.
Yes,
Sensational
Fiery 5. And yeah, we have a whole list of the groups that we have going on throughout our years that we've been doing this. And it's just so much fun. to pick the name based on some personalities, based on how well I think the class is going to do, and whatever might be motivating to them.
We have had about 20 to 25, I think 21 to 25 women have completed Two Unstoppable Strong for the metastatic community thus far. We have 5 or 6 women in the session now. Overall, we've had about 140 women complete Two Unstoppable Strong, because we do have cohorts for women who completed active treatment in the last year. And we have a group of women who completed active treatment 1 to 5 years ago. And then, of course, this group for women living with metastatic cancer. One of the things I think that's really powerful about this program, as Stacey said, she's able to personalize it for the group that she's working with. So it's never the same class twice. And even within the 6 weeks, she continues to make modifications and customize it for the group. But also, each group finds each other, and that social support and social connection that they make together is really very powerful. And as you said, Abigail, there aren't always programs designed specifically for this community. And we know that each different diagnosis, each different phase that you might be in or stage that you're in feels different, and it might feel isolating from a different group. So finding a group of women living with metastatic cancer that are all trying to launch back into fitness somehow is very powerful. And I think what we're finding is that once the women go through this program, they feel empowered because they've now learned how to safely exercise and how to modify. They now feel empowered to go participate in other exercise programs. So, for example, we're having a lot of our graduates from Two Unstoppable Strong now participating in our monthly challenges because they know how to modify, whether it's a squat or doing something from a chair instead of standing or instead of from the floor. They've learned from Stacey how to modify for their own needs.
So let's get into some real specifics. So sorry, Stacey, I just want to make sure we have time to get into the brass tacks of things, right? So number one, when you sign up for this, you have to have your doctor sign off on you participating. So there's a specific form that your doctor looks at. My doctor was like, this is amazing. I'm telling all my other patients about this. So that's one thing that I think is very important, that, your team needs to be involved in signing off on you participating. But one of the participants or people watching asked, how often is the program offered for people with MBC? I think we're enrolling now for April, right?
So in every session that we offer, we've been offering at least one session for women living with metastatic cancer. So we had a session start in January, and there's now a group currently going on, and we're now enrolling for an April cohort that'll start. We are also willing to open up more sessions if we find that we have the demand. So we often look at how many women are inquiring, and then we look at whether or not we can open a new session.
Currently, we're doing three 6-week sessions in a year. So we'll do one in January, we do one in April, and then we do one in the fall. We found that a lot of people are doing things in the summer that doesn't quite go along, but we're also willing to reevaluate that if there is a demand for it, as Michelle said. But currently there are 3 times a year. And then we offer drop-in classes on a regular basis. So once you have a good feeling about what you're doing and you understand what movement works for you, you are welcome to join in on those drop-in classes such as Pilates, Zumba, these things that are also taught by cancer exercise specialists. So they are a part of the Two Unstoppable method and the Two Strong way. They understand what we're trying to promote and how we're trying to be. And that for those drop-in classes, you do not need your doctor to sign off on, but you do have to say that you understand what you're participating in for sure.
They're obviously able to accommodate based on demand. So fantastic. Thank you all for joining us today and sharing such valuable information. I will be sure to hyperlink to all of your websites and information and resources that we mentioned today in the show notes below. So thank you again for joining us. And thank you everyone for listening to our show. I would like to acknowledge that all of the information on our podcast are from personal experiences and are not a substitute for professional medical advice. You should always contact your medical care team. Our podcasts are made possible because of donations from listeners like you, so please feel free to make a contribution through survivingbreastcancer.org/donate. And there are so many ways to get involved with our nonprofit and our organization, not just through listening to the podcast, but through all of our virtual programming. So you can check out all of our lineups by hopping over to survivingbreastcancer.org/events. And as always, all of our programs, services, and resources are absolutely free. Thanks again and keep on thriving.